the right leader to guide Durham's future. That's how new Durham City Manager Bo Ferguson has been described by our city's elected officials. What makes him so qualified for this important position? What challenges does he expect to face? And what is his vision for city operations? That's what we're about to find out. Welcome to City Life. I'm Beverly Thompson. Joining me to talk about his new position is City Manager Bo Ferguson. Welcome, Bo, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I know how busy you've been. But before we get started, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me who the real Bo Ferguson is.
Well, first and foremost, I'm a Durhamite.
Okay.
I've lived in Durham for 12 going on 13 years, and I love everything about this city. And so this is a wonderful opportunity for me to get to marry up my passion for serving the city and lead in this new way. I'm a native North Carolinian, born and raised in Charlotte, and have a lifelong love for this state, and I'm a public servant. I enjoy working for government. My whole career has been in local government management, working for cities, and so, you know, I've made a career out of doing the thing that I love, which is helping people and seeing governments run well and helping elected officials do their important work. So that's a little bit about me. Happy to talk more about it as we go through the day-to-day.
Okay. All right. We'll get there. So now let's move to the job. For people who don't know, what does a city manager actually do?
Sure. So a city manager is first and foremost not an elected official. The city manager works for the mayor and council, and the mayor and council obviously are elected by the residents of Durham to carry out their wishes and policies. So the city council hires a city manager. That's my position, and that person runs the day-to-day operations of the city. They make sure that all the policies of the mayor and council are carried out. They serve the mayor and council by helping them analyze policies and make decisions, bringing them information, organizing their meetings, and really helping them do their jobs as elected officials. So it's a professional position that reports to the mayor and council. It certainly interacts closely with the governing body, but it's not a person who sets policy, it's a person who carries out the policy. Most of the employees in the city, almost all the employees, report up to the city manager. So the city manager is sort of the CEO of the city. The city council is kind of like a board of directors in a company. And so the city manager's role is really to do that day-to-day executive function.
So it's not your job to have the vision for the city. That's more of a policy-making direction, I guess.
Right.
And you are responsible for the operation of the day-to-day kind of activities.
Sure. I think it works best when there's a partnership. So certainly the city manager and the staff of the city contribute to the vision, but it's the council that sets that vision. I think we're at the table in the conversations about what our priorities need to be. We're also a really important tool for the mayor and council to get feedback from the residents when they're deciding what the vision ought to be. So we're certainly at the table, but we're not the decision makers. That's the city council and the mayor. And the city manager is really more of a facilitator in that process than someone who's weighing in and giving their own personal opinion or their own personal values.
So I know you've been city manager since January 1st.
It's going fast.
So similar to the president, tell me, what will your first 100 days look like? You've already had like a third of those days go by.
Almost half. I was looking at the calendar today. So, you know, it's interesting coming into the city manager role after having worked for the city for 12 years. So as a deputy city manager, I certainly know the organization well and I know the community well. But for me, being the city manager, these first 100 days is really about reintroducing myself and taking a fresh look at Durham and the organization. It would be easy, but I think a little bit foolhardy to think I know what I need to know to lead this community. So just as if I were coming here from out of town and taking this job, I want to have conversations with leaders and residents and partners throughout the community. I want to meet with our staff and our leaders in the organization to understand where our city organization is at. I want to take in a lot of information And I want to hear primarily from our elected officials, how do they feel like things are going in Durham, and where would they like to see things go? So I'm doing a lot of listening right now, and I'm spending a lot of time doing that. I also want to make sure that the organization that we have, the city government, is aligned to deliver on the priorities that our council and our residents are telling me about. So we're looking at how the organization is aligned. There might be a little bit of reorganization that I propose coming towards the end of those 100 days, just to make sure that we're as efficient as we can be, and that we are well prepared to deliver on the mission that the council gives us.
So you talked a little bit about this, your comparison of being a deputy city manager and a city manager, and having to step back and look at things from a fresh point of view. So how do you, I guess, assimilate that into your mind? How do you look at things differently?
Sure. I think the primary difference in role, as a deputy city manager, I had oversight of a portfolio of departments. So part of my job was to really understand the day-to-day work of those departments, to meet with the department directors and support them in their work, and to really make sure that their issues were elevated up to the city manager and the council, or to make sure that they were being responsive to issues that were coming down or directives that were coming down from the manager and the council. I think the primary shift when I've filled the role now of the city manager is I'm spending a lot more time one-on-one with our elected officials and with the council. And I think the city manager has a tremendous responsibility to be hearing from the elected officials and keeping the elected officials informed so that they can fulfill their responsibilities to the public. I'm a little bit more removed from that day-to-day work in departments. It's still just as important as it was, but it's less of my time. And now what I rely on the deputy city managers to help make that connection for me, so that I can be closer to the elected officials and then out in the community. The city council told me when they selected me that they want their manager to be someone who's interfacing with our partners. We have great partners in Durham, in the county government, in the school system, in our great business community, in our nonprofit community. All of those people are critical to helping support really great quality of life in Durham. And the council has told me they want me out in the community and building relationships with those individuals. So that's another shift from being a deputy city manager. I'm doing more of that now in this role. So
what do you see then as the biggest challenge that's facing residents right now, since you're out in the community more?
Well, I'm not dodging that question to say, to me, one of the most important ways to answer that question is to ask the residents. And Durham, I think, does a great job of that. We've got a resident survey that we'll be discussing with the city council in their budget retreats this year. We've done community conversations where we went out into the community and had kind of long and in-depth conversations and focus groups with our residents to hear what they're saying. We know some of the things that they have told us are they remain focused on making sure Durham is as safe a community as we can make it, so that it's a great place to live and raise a family and to pursue their careers. We know that getting around town is always a quality of life factor. And so whether that's the quality of roads or transit, we know that those priorities remain high. Something that I've heard from the council and that I personally have a lot of desire to work on and see improve is making sure that everyone in Durham can access the great opportunities and quality of life that we have. I think Durham's reputation is strong and growing, not just in our region, but in our country, as a great place to live and a great place to have a business. It's a great place to pursue your career. But we also know that people who are born and raised in Durham don't always seem to be able to have access to that quality of life. And that's something that is a top priority for our city council. It's a top priority for me and our organization to find ways to make sure people have access to those careers, that they have access to a great education, that they have access to the opportunities that other Durhamites enjoy. And so I think that's a real challenge that we all have to remain carefully aligned to and passionate about.
Do you have any ideas about how to make that happen?
Well, I think I'll go back to some of the direction the council's given me about partnerships. I don't think there's anything that the government can accomplish alone, the city government. I think when we talk about making sure people have access to jobs, we need employers at the table. We need employers who have great paying jobs and great jobs that create sort of a long and stable career. We need to make sure they're in the conversation. We have huge anchor institutions in Durham that are such great partners. North Carolina Central, Duke University, Durham Tech, Duke University Health System. When we talk about where our residents might be able to get jobs or get ready for jobs, we've got to have those people at the table. So some of my early ideas are not necessarily that I've got perfect solutions in my back, in my back pocket, but that we have just some of the leading institutions in our state and our country right here in Durham that we can engage in conversations. And that's one thing I look forward to doing, to try and make sure we pursue every opportunity to make sure that economic prosperity is something all Durhamites can enjoy.
Okay, well, thank you. Let's switch gears just a little bit and talk about the organization.
Yeah.
What do you see as the biggest challenge facing the organization itself right now? 2,600 employees.
Yeah.
And
so it's a great question. There's more than just one is probably my answer, and you can call them challenges, you can call them opportunities. They're a little bit of both. I think first and foremost, the whole world of work has seen a lot of upheaval in the last 10 years. The pandemic was a part of that, but we also see just shifts in industries and economies, and so being an employer in 2025, presents a lot of challenges on how do you attract the best workforce, what is it that people really love about work, and how can you lean into that as an employer. So, the number one resource we have as a city government is our employees. They're the ones who provide the service. They're the ones who meet and interact with our residents on a day-to-day basis. And I want each and every one of those employees to be motivated to do the best they can at the job, to have a heart for public service. And for me to make sure they're in a position to do that, I need to make sure they love their job. And loving their job means having a great work environment, having the right policies and programs to support them and to make them feel valued as an employee. We need to pay them appropriately. And we're in a hot market right now. So we've got a lot of competition in the Triangle for professionals, for people who have trade skills, and basically across the city workforce. We know we've got competition in other cities in the private sector. So I would come back and say the people talent question is both our greatest challenge and our greatest opportunity. We want to keep recruiting and retaining the best possible staff to serve our residents. And while there are a lot of other things I could probably talk about, I think that's always going to be a manager's number one priority.
Okay. Definitely a challenge facing a lot of similar organizations throughout Durham and the country, North Carolina even.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So there are a lot of things happening now at the federal level. And an example would be diversity, equity, and inclusion, changes there, and a halt on some of the federal funding and grants. Who knows what's next? But how do you see those decisions impacting us here locally?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, you see a lot of change with any change in administrations. We're certainly seeing a rapid pace of change right now as the most recent change in administration has come into effect. Our job number one is to pay attention and to make sure that we're doing everything we can to carry out our mission as a local government and the mission that our elected officials and our residents have given us. Durham's values did not change when the new administration came into place. Durham's values are embodied in the elected officials that sit at the dais for the city council. They have been clear to me about what we care about in Durham. We care about equal opportunity for everyone. We care about an inclusive atmosphere in our community. And our job as a local government is to carry out those values. We do aggressively seek funding and support for our local programs from the federal government and from nonprofits. And so we are obviously concerned if that funding were to go away, that we might have to pivot how we fund local programs. We might have to we might see pauses in work that we do if our funding is withdrawn. But at this time, right now, we're taking a wait and see attitude, and we're also being as proactive as we can be to make sure that we're maximizing our opportunities to protect that funding, to draw down that funding when it's available to us. So, I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I have a great deal of confidence in Durham's ability to lean into our values and our mission. And regardless of what happens at other local or other levels of government, Durham can rest assured that its local government is going to stay the course on those values.
A challenging time for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have some pretty big shoes to fill as you take over for City Manager Wanda Page, former City Manager Wanda Page. How do you plan to have your own stamp on the city?
Well, I was a co-worker with Wanda for 8 years when she was a deputy city manager, and was privileged to have her as my boss and someone I consider a friend and mentor for the last 4 years as city manager. I don't think that I will ever fill Wanda's shoes, and I don't think people expect me to. Wanda blazed her own trail, and I was lucky to get to learn from her. I think all I can offer to answer that question is to lean into who I am and to try and be as authentic as possible. I like for the staff to understand, what motivates me, and the community to know that too. I like people to, if I've made a decision, I'm pretty comfortable telling people, hey, here's why I did it. I don't think there ought to be a mystery about why decisions get made or how leadership gets carried out. And so I think if I have a brand that people are trying to understand, it's just going to be to watch me and see how I act, ask me questions. I am certainly not perfect, and when I make mistakes, I'll hopefully own up to them and then try and get us back on the right track. But I hope that people will see me as someone they can trust and someone who's authentic, and I look forward to trying to lean into that with our staff and our organization.
I know you have some pretty big leadership achievements under your belt already, so you're no slouch for sure. But we definitely want to talk about the things you've already done. You've created the Community Safety Department and implemented the tasks that they carry out, and you've overseen some tremendous growth and change in Durham's public safety portfolio. What leadership skills do you think actually define your leadership?
I'm flattered that you put those in my column, and I will answer your question by saying this. A good leader is smart enough to get out of the way when they've got smart people who are making progress and are able to advance the goals of the organization. And so if I get any credit for any of the things you named, it's that I saw talent in our staff. I provided guardrails, guidance, and feedback to people who were motivated to do the best work they could possibly imagine for our residents. And I do think that's something that I believe is very important for leaders. It's not about me having the best ideas. That's way too much pressure. I don't want that. It's about leading a workplace where people feel comfortable talking about ideas, where they feel comfortable disagreeing respectfully with each other, and then looking at the circumstances and looking at our data and taking some careful risks to try and get what's best for our residents. So I'm proud of the Community Safety Department. I'm proud of some of my earlier work with the operations portfolio, but that's pride by association. Those were not great decisions I made so much as great conversations that I got to be a part of, and great leaders that I got to work with. And that's going to continue to be how we move forward. I am so excited about the team of leaders in the organization and the mission of attracting new leaders. We have a couple of vacancies in the organization that we'll be filling in the coming years. That's a great opportunity to either bring in new leaders or see existing staff who have the potential to grow, advance into those positions, and that's a really exciting time for me. Because it's it's like a kid in a candy store. It's like Christmas morning. You get to open a gift and see all these gifts that someone's bringing to you and to your organization. So
and people love to be excited about work. And I think in the end, although we say people don't like change, I think it might be pretty exciting for some people.
Well, I hope we can make change exciting for people. Look, I read a great quote the other day. People don't fear change, they fear loss. And I think a lot about that when things change, it's not necessarily that something's going to be different tomorrow, but that maybe there's something I value today that's going to change. So, so if there's an opportunity for our organization to change and do things that are exciting, I think one of the responsibilities I feel is to minimize the sense of loss and to maximize the sense of gain, to really think about how can change make us better, how can change be more exciting for our employees to come to work, are there things we can do that really remind them of why they took a job in public service in the first place, and to maximize that feeling of excitement and those benefits that they get when they come into the office in the morning. So, we'll see if I succeed at that, but that's certainly my number one motivation as we talk about any changes I'll bring to this role.
So what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned over the last 12 years with the organization as deputy city manager?
I think one of the things that's obvious to everyone, and maybe this is just stating the obvious, is Durham has such a unique vibe. It is such an authentic community, and especially when communities are experiencing a lot of growth like Durham, and I've gotten to see a lot of that growth over the 12 years I've been here. It can be hard to hang on to that. But if you ask me, and I know this gets debated, I think Durham is doing a fabulous job of not just protecting its legacy, but really leaning into its uniqueness. I mean, I think the presence and the character of our small business community, I think the reputation of our institutions, our parks and our neighborhoods are just so, they have so much character to them that I've really come to appreciate that. When I came here 12 years ago, Durham was exciting to me, but I didn't know it. And I may have undersold how authentic of a place Durham was. I thought it was a great career opportunity and a great place to raise my kids, but just getting into Durham's vibe and being a part of the Durham community has really been, for me, one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the past 12 years. And it's something that I now take as sort of a sacred trust that as a leader of the organization, and certainly there are lots of influences on Durham's character beyond the city government. But as someone who leads the city government, I feel a real sense of responsibility to make sure that we govern in a way that leans into that uniqueness, that grit and determination that Durham has. And so I'll count that as a pretty critical lesson learned over the last 12 years.
So you would think that with Durham's image, how do you see that being changed, or how do you see it changing over the past few years? Sure.
Well, there's no doubt that our reputation continues to show up on lists, and I've heard people have mixed feelings about that. I've heard people who maybe want Durham to be a well-kept secret, but I think there's a certain inevitability when you've got something really good that the world's going to find out about it. So as I've seen that come about, I think what I've seen in our city council is a lot of commitment and desire to shape that and to use that growth and that popularity to try to benefit all of Durham, to try to, I know I hear the council, and obviously development is a hot issue, but
Yes.
I hear the council feel that express an opinion that meeting the demand for new residents is a critical part of keeping houses as affordable as we can. And we all know housing affordability is a real challenge in Durham. But I think there's a real effort to try and focus on that, both from the supply side and then also from being a partner in building affordable housing and making sure that everyone can continue to live and work here. I think there's a strong commitment that Durham not just be accessible to people who have wealth and have means and maybe who are coming in here from another community where they can afford to live a great lifestyle, but to really find out ways, and we talked about this earlier, find out ways for people who were born and raised here and maybe didn't have generational wealth to make sure they get to access all of those great restaurants, that great vibe, those great neighborhoods and parks and all of our great amenities. So, I think I've definitely seen the growth, and there's no question that there are pressures from growth and downsides to growth, but there's no question in my mind that there's an authentic desire on the part of our community's leaders to really protect what everybody loves so much about Durham.
So let's talk a little bit about employees. What can they expect from you? I mean, are there any changes coming up, or? Yeah.
Well, first and foremost, I hope they see an openness in me and an authenticity. I hope that a lot of employees already know me. So having been here 12 years, I've tried to I think it's really important that I understand the work people do and that I show up in the places they work and not just hang out in City Hall. So I've ridden the back of a solid waste truck. I've done ride-alongs with my police department. I've helped pave a street in Public Works. And those things for me are not just great photo opportunities. They are really they're experiences that I remember to this day and that I think about when I'm driving home and I see a water management crew repairing a water main break at midnight on a holiday weekend.
It's a sense of pride, isn't it?
When
I drive by them and see them, I'm like, oh, my people.
and that's exactly it. I have a sense of pride, and frequently, so an employee may see me stop and thank them, or see me get out and ask a little bit. I'm immensely curious, and so there's always something fascinating to me about what our staff do. I love our urban forestry team and the crazy ways that they have to get up into street trees to remove limbs and make them safe. And I'm fascinated by the work of our police department and our community engagement teams. I love to know how they go about their work. So
water management.
So I think pride and I think curiosity and authenticity. I hope those are things they can see. As far as change goes, change is inevitable, and I think we change every season and every year to try and react and anticipate how our community's changing. But I don't ever want that to be, and I'll do everything I can to keep it from being chaotic change. I think we need to communicate really well when the organization is changing about why we're making decisions that we are, and about where we think we're going and what we're trying to achieve. So, yes, they can expect change just as they've experienced probably for their short or long careers with us. Right. But I hope to do that in a way that they can respect and understand.
So we talked a little bit about you during the first part of the interview. Now tell me a little bit more so that people can get to know you personally. What do you like to do?
What do I like to do? Well, I have a great family. I have a wife and 2 kids, proud parent of 2 children in Durham Public Schools. And so we like to do a lot of things together, although they're teenagers, and so life is busy right now. But I wouldn't describe myself as an avid runner, but I'm a runner in my spare time to try and stay healthy. Love to work in my yard, and I'm an amateur gardener, I guess is fair to say. Oh. Love to get out on the water and enjoy time out on a boat is always a nice trip, and I love to travel. So our family, well, we're having fun now that the kids are old enough to enjoy some farther flung destinations. We're getting out and seeing the world a little bit, and that's great. So, but there's no better place to enjoy your free time than Durham. we love the sights and scenes in Durham. We love getting out as a family and trying restaurants or just going to the movies or the parks. So I am working a lot right now, but in my free time, those are some of the things I like to do.
You mentioned gardening. Do you grow vegetables?
I do grow vegetables.
Really?
Yes. Now, my garden plot at home only gets maybe the 6 of the 8 hours is recommended to get really good vegetables. So I found that I grow really healthy plants that don't always grow really healthy vegetables. But I enjoy it, and I make a go of it every year. I'm trying to find the right crop mix to deal with the less sunlight. Lettuces do great. Some of the greens do great, but my tomato plants, I get big, beautiful plants and not a lot of tomatoes. I also have a real animosity towards the small critters in my backyard that like to raid my garden. That can be a little source of tension between me and my kids because they don't like me trying to fight with the critters. But,
rabbits.
Yeah. Rabbits and squirrels. But hey, it's a community
bugs.
with rich, diverse wildlife, so I guess that's part of what
You
I
have to
need
live
deal
with it, right?
Yeah, so.
Well, this has been a lot of fun.
For me too, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. But I do want to ask you as we close, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I want to say how excited and humbled I am to get this opportunity. It is such a fabulous community and a fabulous organization. I am so proud of the work that city staff do. Our residents tell us that our resident survey has told us that we have some of the best customer service of any city in the country. And it is such a point of pride for me just to be part of this organization and to lead it is really a dream come true. So thank you for this opportunity. Thank Durham for the chance that I have to get to be in this role, and I'm really looking forward to what comes next.
Well, thank you so much. And I have to ask you before we end the interview, what do you love about Durham?
I love Durham's grit. I love that Durham is not trying to be someone else, but we look to our history and our past and our present, and we dig into the things as a community that fascinate us, regardless of whether or not that's cool to the rest of the world. I think that grit and determination has been a source of Durham's success throughout generations, and I can't wait to see where it takes us.
Wow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. This has been great.
Well, that does it for City Life. Don't forget to follow us on social media, watch us on the Durham Television Network, and on YouTube. And you can listen to our podcast on iTunes. I'm Beverly Thompson. Thank you for joining me to learn more about city life in Durham.
What has surprised you becoming city manager that you didn't expect or didn't think would be part of the job or something you just did not see from your previous perspective?
Good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think people who don't get to spend as much time as I now get to spend with our city council can dehumanize them a bit. I think it's really hard to be an elected official, and especially in a community that has so much advocacy and passion as Durham does, that frequently elected officials get sized up based on what they do or don't say or do or don't support or do or don't fund. I have found our elected officials to be really caring and empathetic towards the community and towards each other. So much of what the public sees, they'll see them in a meeting where frequently they're politely but strenuously disagreeing with each other, and they assume that somehow that speaks to some deep divide. But what I find is I think they're a really good team that has a lot of respect for each other because they're they're all public servants who deeply care about Durham, and the more time I get to spend with them, the more that comes through. It's really easy for all of us to kind of create stereotypes in our mind of elected officials and what they're about, and I would just want people to know I think we've got 7 great, passionate individuals who sit in those seats, and it has been a real pleasant surprise to get to see how collaborative they are and they can be.
So, Bo, if you had to count your hours that you work, how many hours would you think you put in a week doing this job?
So let me answer that by saying this. I think there are a lot of city employees who probably put in the hours I put in. Right now, I haven't filled my old position, so I'm still doing some things I was doing as a deputy city manager, and I'm doing a lot of things as a city manager, hopefully all the things as a city manager. So it is a lot, but I'm not about to complain about that. Number one, it's fun. I'm having a good time.
Good.
And number two, I think a lot of our city employees put that kind of work into their jobs. Our public safety professionals, our folks who kind of work in maintaining our infrastructure, folks who enforce our codes and do our, you've seen our planning staff,
Yes.
Late night at our meetings, but they've also doing late nights at planning commissions, and they go to the county. So I'm not about to suggest that somehow I'm working harder than any other city employee. I've always been impressed by the work ethic that our staff has, and while I am putting in a lot of hours, they are too. So,
Well, we appreciate the work that you do. I just want you to know
well,
that.
thank you. I'm having fun.
Great leader.
Thank you.
Anything
I
else?
have another
Oh,
question.
okay.
I have heard through the grapevine that you have utilized artificial intelligence from time to time,
Once or twice.
and we're at the very beginning of this AI revolution. How do you see AI being used at the city to serve residents?
Sure. So I am fascinated by AI. I am far from an AI futurist. I am as perplexed as the rest of the world about how that technology will mature and evolve. But at my core, I'm an optimist, and so I really believe that AI will create opportunities for us to do the things that residents expect us to do and do them better and more efficiently, and to lean into our values. I think if we're guided by our values, it's going to be hard for us to go wrong using that technology or any technology. I think what AI seems to have a lot of potential to do is to really amalgamate knowledge and then derive insights from that knowledge. And a lot of what we do in government when we're faced with hard problems, problems about how to nudge the housing market in a way that makes it more affordable, or how to nudge the employment market to make better jobs, that hopefully we can use those technologies to look at all the knowledge in the world and help us find ways, and the knowledge in Durham help us find ways to kind of move in that direction. I don't know what that'll look like, but I know that it's always going to start with human creativity. The AI, even I think in its grandest forms, is still going to be a tool, not an intelligence unto itself. And I think if we treat it like that, and just like any tool, if we use it responsibly and wisely, then we can get good outcomes from our residents, and that's what I hope for.
So humans will always need to be involved, though, right?
I don't see a world where they're not, because our clients are humans, right? The government exists to serve the humans of the residents of Durham, and so I have watched a lot of sci-fi in my life, and I'm certainly understand the threats that people see in AI. And I understand that AI is going to change the workplace. So I'm not going to be someone who says AI is not going to take away certain types of jobs. It will, but we are never going to be governed by AI. We're going to be governed by humans who are elected by humans, and we are going to be serving humans. And so, no, there's no scenario I can think of where humans aren't a critical part of that equation. So.
Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So wrap, guys.